The mother involved in an online hoax that ended with a young teen's suicide. NBC's George Lewis has the latest on that.
Lori Drew is expected to learn her fate today as a federal judge sentences her for perpetrating a hoax on the popular social networking site MySpace.
Theoretically, the judge could give her up to 3 years in federal prison on this case. I don't think anyone expects this.
As many of you know, earlier...
Prosecutors say that Drew, her daughter, and one of Drew's employees created a bogus character on MySpace, a 16-year-old boy named Josh who befriended 13-year-old Megan Meyer. Drew wanted to find out if Megan, who lived down the street in this St. Louis suburb, was saying nasty things online about Drew's daughter. In testimony, investigators said the fictional Josh later broke off the friendship with Megan, messaging her, quote, "The world would be better off without you." Megan hanged herself in her bedroom. And though what happened took place in the St. Louis area, the case was tried here in Los Angeles because this is where myspace.com has its headquarters. What Drew was found guilty of was misusing the internet site.
I don't think she set out to, in any way, shape, or form, have this girl commit suicide. No, I don't. But I think that in her knowledge of this girl having depression and suicidal tendencies, I think that she made poor judgment.
And in finding her guilty, the jury seemed to be sending a message that cyberbullying is not okay. Now it will be up to the judge to rule whether Lori Drew gets federal prison time or probation. For today, George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Dan Abrams is NBC's chief legal analyst. Dan, good morning to you. The prosecution's smarting a bit here, let's face it. They wanted her convicted on 2 felonies, intentionally causing emotional harm and conspiracy. That didn't happen. Instead, they got misdemeanors. So when they call for 3 years and $300,000, is that because they think it's appropriate or out of frustration?
Well, look, I think that they're saying we think this is a more serious crime. The prosecutors are saying we don't think this is just a typical misdemeanor case. The problem for them is that even the pre-sentence report, which is an objective assessment of what the sentence ought to be, is suggesting a year probation. So the prosecutors here are starting a little bit behind the game in asking for 3 years.
So is it likely the judge will go somewhere down the middle if the defense wants probation and the prosecution wants 3 years? Are we going to see something in the middle ground?
In most cases, the judge will stick pretty closely to the pre-sentence report. This isn't just an ordinary case, and as a result, I wouldn't be surprised to see something of a compromise here on the part of the judge, which is to say, look, this is a misdemeanor case. I'm not going to give 3 years here. On the other hand, I just can't walk away from this case saying this is going to be probation.
Because this in some ways is a groundbreaking case, there's something interesting that's about to happen or maybe not happen. Lori Drew's attorneys do not want Megan Meyer's mother and family members to be allowed to testify those so-called victims' impact statements at the sentencing because they're arguing that the way the prosecution handled this case, that Megan Meyer wasn't the victim.
That's right.
MySpace was the victim.
That's right. The way the jury verdict came out, which was that the crime here was unauthorized access to a computer. As a result, the victim was MySpace.
Right. Because
their computer server was accessed in an unauthorized fashion.
So because of that, should the family members of Megan Meyer be allowed to testify?
As a technical legal matter, probably not. As a practical matter, do I think that the judge will say at least one of them can testify? Probably. Again, this is not dispositive in terms of determining what the sentence will be. I mean, this has really been something across the country where victims have been allowed to speak out in court, and it really is pretty discretionary for the judge.
What is the legacy of this case as we move forward and more cases come up dealing with computers and the internet?
More laws out there. I mean, the truth is that the prosecutors are saying, if you don't sentence to 3 years, this is going to send a message to people they can do that. Well, the reason that's not really true is because the message has already been sent, and the laws are already being changed around the country now to make sure that if someone else does this, that they will serve time. The problem in this case is the laws hadn't caught up yet. So when the prosecutors moved forward in this case, they had limited options, and they had to use a very creative legal theory to go after her.
Dan Abrams, Dan, as always, thanks very much.